Hey everyone, and welcome to a new video on Bite of Geek. Today I'm talking about the smart home protocols that all the smart home devices use, the backbone of your smart home network. The multitude of devices that are out there on the marketplace, they all use something different as a means to be able to communicate to each other. And really, it's important that you understand the differences between them and why you might want to use certain ones, why you might want to choose a specific one, and what ones you might want to avoid for using on your smart home network. So when I started my smart home journey, one of the first devices I bought, like a lot of people, was a smart speaker. In my case, it was an Amazon Echo, and then shortly after that, it was my first light bulb. And it was just brilliant to be able to turn on the light just by talking to the smart speaker. But little did I know at that point in time what path I'd gone and chosen and why I would need to change that in the future. So in this video, I'm going to go through some of the things that I've learned from that, talking about the protocols available in smart home technology. So when we're talking about protocols, well, it's just the language that devices use to securely communicate to each other across a network. We have this in our lives on a daily basis now. One of them is Wi-Fi. We're so accustomed to it. It's on our mobile phones. We have it in games consoles. We stream television through Wi-Fi. And obviously our internet connection for a lot of people will just be Wi-Fi once it comes through off the cable from your provider. So we are extremely used to having that particular protocol in our lives. And for smart homes, as a kind of like a backbone of your smart home, Wi-Fi can be quite useful. So one of the first devices I bought after buying my smart speaker was a bulb, a Wi-Fi one to be precise. I knew no better at the time. It was the right price, the right fitment, and it had RGB. So everything, all the boxes were ticked there. And when plugged in and I could control it either via the app or via the smart speaker, it was brilliant. I quickly bought a couple more bulbs for some other lights around the house, and it was great. Everything worked fine. As I started to buy more smart devices, and reading up onto the pros and cons of different things, that's when I realized that maybe having the whole house using Wi-Fi based devices probably wasn't the best idea. Now, as I say, Wi-Fi is really good for a lot of things, but potentially for bulbs, not so much. So when you have a Wi-Fi bulb, when you want to use that bulb, it's got to communicate out of your house to provide the manufacturer's cloud services, or their own servers located in another country, and then come back in to your house. Now with some systems you can actually, as I've done a video on this on the channel previously, you can kind of like control that and make that a local only option. And certainly if you're concerned about privacy, you will need to look into something like that. And also, if you have things like power cuts or unreliable internet or something like that, again, you'll want to have a look into doing that, because if you have a break in any of that connectivity, then you're not going to be able to control those bulbs. So you really do need something that is quite reliable from that point of view to be able to use it. I think one of the other things with Wi-Fi, whilst it's great for things like security cameras, really good for that. It's got that high bandwidth. It's not so good for smaller devices. So if you think things like door sensors or something like that, it can really drain the battery really quickly. So generally you want to be avoiding devices like that unless you want to be paying out for batteries all the time. Now, one of the things that people really don't understand about Wi-Fi, and it's because it's not printed on the boxes, when you buy these devices, is that if you've got your bog standard router, modem router that you get supplied by your ISP, you're almost certainly going to have some kind of hard limit as to the number of Wi-Fi devices you can connect to that router. Now, ones I've had previously, it's been as low as 20 Wi-Fi devices that could be connected to that. And when it hits more than 20, you know, effectively the router starts to get bogged down, performance slows down on the network. So, you know, 20 sounds like a lot of devices, but when you think, you know, your Amazon Echoes or your Google Homes, you know, you've got your mobile phones, your tablets, your television, and then you go start adding things like smart bulbs in and stuff like that as well. 20 comes around really, really quickly. So the only way you're going to get away from that, you know, because these ISP provided modems are just super locked down, the only way you're going to get around it is to either buy your own router, your own modem, you know, that you can connect to your network, or you use one of these other protocols that we'll talk about today. You know, if you go down the route of buying something yourself, you know, a lot of them nowadays, you know, relatively decent ones will support 100+ devices on Wi-Fi connections. So, you know, it's really, you know, do you want to pay the money for something better, or do you want to go down a different protocol route, you know, and use different devices? So just bear that in mind. You may want to use a different protocol with slightly different sets of Wi-Fi devices on your network. I'm sure, you know, a lot of people will be abundantly aware, you know, you don't always get great Wi-Fi within your house. Certainly if you've got solid walls, you know, the range really does drop off. So, you know, you can get interference. You know, if you live in a neighborhood where you've got very close neighbors, you've got interference on your Wi-Fi as well. So, you know, if you want to build out a big smart home network and you're going to use Wi-Fi, you just have to think, you know, the range isn't going to be that great. You're probably going to have to get extenders to be able to support that. You know, if you've got, you know, some kind of out building or something like that, you want to get, you know, Wi-Fi connectivity to that because you want to put some smart devices in there. You're going to have some kind of extender for that. So the next protocol I want to talk about is BLE, Bluetooth Low Energy. Now, we're probably most familiar with that with things like wireless keyboards, mice, or wireless headphones. You know, it's a protocol which is really low power consumption, you know, whether it's transmitting data or whether it's sat there, you know, the device is idle. So it's perfect for these kinds of devices. You know, it hasn't got huge range. You know, if you think about, you know, your keyboard and mouse, generally they're going to be in the same room as your computer. You know, your headphones are going to be, you know, maybe you've got your mobile phone in your pocket or something like that. So, you know, not great for being something that is probably the backbone of your entire network for the whole of your house. You know, there aren't an awful lot of devices on the marketplace that use this for the smart home industry. So, you know, it's probably, you know, whilst you can get things like bulbs, some bulbs, you know, are available to that support it. I think it's probably one that, you know, if you're going to use it, it would be very, very limited in scope within your smart home network. And certainly, you know, I wouldn't suggest that you make it kind of like the foundation of your smart home network. So the next protocol I want to talk about is ZWave or ZWave, depending upon where you are in the world. And, you know, this isn't one that I've got first-hand experience of. However, it does seem to be super popular. Certainly, you know, on forums when I've asked questions about smart home devices, lots of people jump in, and there's always products which are recommended that are using this particular protocol. You know, it is very much like a Zigbee in that it is, you know, it is a mesh-based protocol. So, you know, it builds, you know, the more devices you add onto your smart home network, the stronger and more wider the network becomes in terms of its ability to talk to those devices. So really, really good from that point of view. You know, it has got really good low latency, it's secure, it's local. So, you know, if keeping your data local is important to you, this is a protocol to consider from that point of view. And it also operates on a frequency which is generally outside of a lot of other you know, wireless based networking devices. So, you know, you're less likely to get interference on this particular protocol. One of the things to note about this as a protocol is it is a protocol where devices that use it have to be certified. So really good from a consumer's point of view in that, you know, devices, you're guaranteed that compatibility between devices. You know, anybody who's used any of the other protocols will know that is not always the case. But with this particular one, you've got that guarantee there. However, you know, like all certification programs, in the industry. There's always a cost involved to that, primarily to the manufacturer, but what does the manufacturer do? Well, they just pass that cost on to the consumer. So what you'll find overall is that, you know, these devices using this protocol will be a little bit more expensive than maybe the Zigbee or Wi-Fi equivalent product. So just something to bear in mind there. So the next protocol is Zigbee, and this is the one that I have primarily based my smart home network on for now. You know, it's been around for years as a protocol. Yeah, when you talk to people about it, they're like, what are you talking about? I've never heard of Zigbee. But it is really well established within the smart home industry. You know, it is a mesh network, so very much like ZWave from that perspective, and obviously same kind of thing. The more devices you add on to your smart home, the network, you know, the better your coverage becomes, the resilience, etc. So, you know, really good from that point of view. It is local control, so, you know, your devices don't have to talk out to somebody else's server, so you get nice quick response on your devices as well. You know, it's great for low power devices, so you see a lot of Zigbee based door sensors and PIRs and things like that. So you know, they just run on coin batteries and they run for years, so really, really good from that point of view. Because it's not a high bandwidth protocol, it's not great for things like video cameras or you know, video doorbells, so you really don't see those kinds of products on the marketplace. However, when you do go to AliExpress or Amazon and you type in Zigbee Smart Home, you know, you do get, you know, an absolute ton of products, you know, whether it's you know, smart switches or buttons or water leak detectors, whatever, you know, there's an absolute load there. So from that point of view, you know, it's really, really good. What I will say is that, you know, with a lot of these manufacturers, devices will just work together. You know, you've got to buy you know, a hub like you have with ZWave for this, and you generally have no problems connecting to that. There are some manufacturers though, even though Zigbee is a standard, there are some manufacturers that don't quite adhere to that standard for one reason or another, and you will need to buy their hub to be able to use the device, which isn't great, because all you'll end up doing is just having a pile of hubs in the corner of your house. So, you know, you just got to be a little bit careful from that point of view. You know, you want to try and avoid that and go for, you know, do your research from that point of view. You know, make sure that you're buying things that are just going to connect on. You know, if people are talking about that it's connecting to Home Assistant and it just did it and it worked with a particular dongle that you've got, then, you know, they're good products to go and buy. So just a final couple of things on the Zigbee protocol. First one is it operates at 2.4 gigahertz, so same frequency as potentially your Wi-Fi network, so there's potential for interference there. I have that set up in my house and I don't have any problems, but obviously your mileage may vary there. And the second one, and I alluded to this a little bit earlier in the video, is that you have different types of Zigbee devices. You have end devices and you have routers. So end devices will generally be battery powered devices like door sensors, and routers will be things, you know, potentially like light bulbs, or they'll be power sockets. Now if you build out, if you only have door sensors, for example, or end devices within your network, then you won't really build a mesh network. What will happen is everything will talk back to the dongle, the kind of like the starting point of your Zigbee network. If you use things like bulbs or you know, plugs within your network, then that will help to build out the mesh network. The only other option that you've got to build that mesh network is you'll have to get yourself some kind of repeater where basically you plug that in elsewhere to go and continue the signal through your network. So something to be aware of there. What I've got is I use sockets for various things, and that builds up a nice mesh network for those devices where you know, those areas where I've got end devices in that location, and it works absolutely fine. The signal strength is absolutely spot on. So the next protocol is Thread, and this is a really new protocol. I think in some ways it's trying to fix the ills all the other protocols with some of the things that it can actually do. But it's low latency, it's low power, it's local control, you know, all really good stuff. You know, it's got you know, more resilience in it than some of the other protocols. So, you know, whereas the others, you've kind of got these dongles that act as your kind of like, you know, your coordinator, your starting point in your mesh network. You know, this as a mesh network, it can have backup ones. So, you know, if something fails, if one of them fails, then it can fall over to those. So you don't lose everything. You know, you don't have your devices that aren't accessible anymore. That is really well thought out. You know, this is definitely going to be, you know, one of those protocols which, whilst at the moment there aren't a lot of devices there on the marketplace, this will be something which will grow and grow. Again, it's another protocol which is certified, so hopefully, you know, the compatibility is going to be there with the devices. For me, I'm not going to be putting Thread into my smart home network just yet. I think, you know, the number of products needs to expand in terms of the overall range. The prices need to come down a little bit more. You know, just needs to be that variety and you know, within the availability of things, really. But I think it is definitely a protocol which is going to expand and grow rapidly. It's got some distinct advantages over the other protocols, and you know, it'd be really interesting to see how that actually develops within the industry and what the take-up like is of that. And finally, we come to Matter. Now, Matter isn't a protocol, Matter is a standard, and this is something that confuses a lot of people. You know, they see the logos on the packaging and they think it's you know, like a Zigbee or a ZWave or something like that. You know, when you've got Wi-Fi, Zigbee, ZWave, Bluetooth, you know, whatever, you know, all these devices, they can't talk to each other because of all these different protocols. The only way they can do that is if you're using some kind of underlying system like Home Assistant, etc. You know, Matter aims to go and fix that. You know, all the big manufacturers, you know, your Philips, your Amazon, your Google have all gone and signed up to Matter and said, yep, you know, we will make sure our products are part of this standard, and, you know, you'll be able to cross-communicate across our devices. So, you know, you'll be able to hook up your Aqara switch to your Google Home, and that will be able to control your Philips Hue light bulb. You know, that is the aim. Again, a little bit like Thread, I suppose. You know, this is very, very early stages. You know, when you see some of the videos on some of the smart home channels on YouTube, you know, varying level of success with some of this functionality. You know, it doesn't seem to be quite there yet. You know, manufacturers have said, you know, we will update all of our devices, firmware updates. That will be via, you know, either on the device or it will be via their hubs or something like that. I think there's a little bit more work to go there. It's so early on that, you know, obviously there are incompatibilities still to be ironed out on that. But from a consumer's perspective, a real step forward. One of the things that you find out really fast from smart home products is that you very quickly build up a drawer full of redundant smart home products, and that's where you go and either get something better or you go and change to a different type of device, and you end up with stuff that you just no longer use. So being able to use these products between each other is a great benefit for the consumer from that point of view. So there you go, those are the protocols used within smart home products and the one that I'm using at the moment. You know, what do you use on your smart home? Let me know down below in the comments. You know, what do you think overall about these different protocols? What do you think about Matter? You know, what do you think about Thread? You know, do you think Thread's going to be the thing that fixes everything for everyone, or is it going to be Matter? Or you're not particularly bothered because you've got a Home Assistant or a Hubitat or something like that? Let me know down below. If you've enjoyed this video, then don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. But as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.